The drama is building up. Oh, am I getting excited for this? Stephen A. Smith is back in the news again, and this time it is about comments that he made about both ESPN and Michael Irvin. This is Sports Guy Talking that you guys are watching and listening to. I am Dustin Tran, your host, as I am here today to talk about Stephen A. Smith blasting ESPN for how they have handled the Michael Irvin situation. If you guys remember what happened to Michael Irvin, there was a woman that accused Michael Irvin of sexual harassment during the week of Super Bowl 57. Despite the lack of evidence against Michael Irvin, ESPN suspended Michael Irvin indefinitely, and it has gotten to the point where Stephen A. Smith has voiced his frustrations about this wild situation. Before I say anything else though, I want to present you guys with a topic question. So here it is. Is Stephen A. Smith right about his take on Michael Irvin? And there's only one correct answer to this. Absolutely. Stephen A. Smith is absolutely correct about his take on Michael Irvin. It has been absolutely asinine to see Michael Irvin being canceled because of a false claim that a Marriott hotel employee said about him. Because of what a woman said about a man, now Michael Irvin is guilty, and that there's nothing Michael Irvin can do to prove his innocence. Whatever happened to innocence to proven guilty in this country? And honestly, it's because of what ESPN is believing in their politics. ESPN is trying to cave into the woke mob, and the woke mob is saying that Michael Irvin needs to be canceled. Never mind the fact that Michael Irvin is a black man. It's because Michael Irvin doesn't fit in with the woke agenda, and that Michael Irvin actually thinks for himself. And because Michael Irvin thinks for himself, that's why he's become the ultimate target for the woke mob. The woke mob is canceling Michael Irvin because of false claims that a woman said against him. And because of what a woman said, now he's suspended indefinitely from ESPN. Where is the evidence? It has been several months since this claim was formed. This claim was formed in the week of Super Bowl 57. That's a long time ago. That was before the refs messed up the ending of Super Bowl 57. Think about how long ago that was. That was when I was still in long clothes, wearing long sleeves and long pants. Now we are in the month of July, where everybody is wearing t-shirt and shorts. That's a long time for evidence to have come up, and the fact that there has been no evidence that has proven the guilt of Michael Irvin, that means Michael Irvin needs to be cleared and he needs to be going back to work. If ESPN won't lift the suspension off of Michael Irvin, they just need to cut ties with him, because they're holding Michael Irvin hostage. They need to let Michael Irvin return back to work. And for Michael Irvin to be suspended because of false claims of a woman, it is absolutely unfair for Michael Irvin to have to deal with this. And I know that there's a saying out there that says life is not fair, but honestly, screw that, because Michael Irvin should not be having to suffer the consequences of what a woman said. Just because of what a woman says, now it's automatically true. And I'm getting mad about what this woman said too, because now it's taking away the real victims of sexual harassment, the real victims of sexual assault. Now, if somebody said that Daniel Snyder committed sexual harassment on a woman, okay, I would be inclined to believe it, because Daniel Snyder is a creep, he's a loser, and he's a guy that quite frankly doesn't give you the good vibes out there. And Daniel Snyder has always been a sleazeball, and that's why Daniel Snyder rightfully got canceled by the NFL. I'm glad that the NFL forced Daniel Snyder out, because Daniel Snyder is a piece of trash and he deserves to be locked up in prison. Now, in the case of Michael Irvin, there seems to be no evidence whatsoever that has been linked to the guilt of Michael Irvin, if guilt of Michael Irvin even exists. If anything, the evidence has shown that Michael Irvin is actually innocent, and that all he was doing was having a conversation with a woman. He just shook a woman's hand and left. That's all that happened. What's wrong with shaking hands with a woman? If the woman agrees to shake the man's hand, then there's no problem. It's not like Michael Irvin touched her thigh or went into her bedroom and did some illegal acts. I mean, come on, we got to be reasonable here, and I'm glad Stephen A. Smith is calling out this BS that ESPN has been saying about Michael Irvin and how they have canceled him. They're willing to take the credibility of a no-name woman over the credibility of an NFL superstar that has proven to be more good than bad in society. Just because of what a woman said, now Michael Irvin's career is essentially ruined, at least to a certain extent. At least that's the way it's looking right now. And I got some quotes to share with y'all of what Stephen A. Smith said on Stephen A.'s World, because he said this. He said, quote, "I'm spoken up on behalf of Michael Irvin by way of simply stating that I want him back on first take as well, barring any unforeseen evidence that was to come forward that would be incredibly incriminating. I've waited months and I'm still waiting. And what I gotta respond back to that quote is that Stephen A. Smith is absolutely right about that quote. I thought he hit the nail on the coffin with that. I thought that you have to wait for evidence to show that somebody is guilty and that you are innocent until proven guilty in this country. But apparently ESPN is not taking that approach whatsoever. So I'm glad Stephen A. Smith called him out on that BS. Honestly, they're using evidence that simply does not exist against Michael Irvin to prove his guilt, because Michael Irvin absolutely did nothing wrong, at least from the evidence that we have seen. Maybe Michael Irvin did do something guilty, but if he did, don't you think the evidence would have shown up by now? And he also said this as well, Stephen A. Smith that is. He says, quote, "This is not a reason for this three-time Super Bowl champion and this Hall of Famer to be unemployed and off the airwaves entertaining us the way that this man entertains us," Smith said. And I thought, Stephen A. Smith, he absolutely hit it on the nail again. Michael Irvin is an entertainer and he knows how to excite sports fans with his analysis and his takes. And even though he's unreasonable about the Dallas Cowboys, you know what? He's entertaining as heck to listen to. And I don't think people feel like Michael Irvin is an idiot and that Michael Irvin is great on television. And because Michael Irvin had one false claim against him, now his resume doesn't even matter. I mean, at some point, we got to believe the man's word. And if we're letting women control society, and I'm not saying women can't control society, but what I am saying is that if we let all women control society and they get to say anything they want without any repercussions whatsoever, then we're going to be in a lot of trouble. Because if a woman could say, "Oh, this man touched me illegally," and they could say, "Hey, keep your hands off that woman. We're going to suspend you indefinitely and we're going to put you in prison. We're not going to investigate any further. We're not going to check if that evidence is actually true. We're just going to say, we're going to lock you up. We're going to cancel you." We would say, what is wrong with that woman? We would say, what is going on here? Why is that man being stripped of his rights because of what a woman said? If we're letting women tell society how things are being run without evidence whatsoever, it would be a problem. It would also be a problem if men just said, "You know what, this woman is bothering me, get that woman off my neighborhood." We would have a problem with that as well. Look, gender equality is not about women having more rights than men. Gender equality is about men and women having equal rights and being treated equally and fairly. And look, I get it, life isn't fair, but you know what? You gotta make it as fair as possible and you gotta make it as reasonable as possible as well. And so far, I haven't seen any reasonable takes from this woman, and yet ESPN is trusting this woman over Michael Irvin when Michael Irvin seems like he's being a reasonable person throughout all of this chaos. And the final quote that I want to share you guys from Stephen A. Smith is this. He says, quote, "We still haven't seen any evidence incriminating Michael Irvin. If we don't see that, this man should be on the airways." And he's absolutely right. We've waited several months for evidence to show up. If the evidence hasn't shown up by now, where we've gotten security footage that is highly tech, that he needs to be coming back to work. You're telling me in 2023 that Michael Irvin committed this act while no one else noticed this act going on and there were no cameras that caught this whatsoever? And you're telling me that because there's no evidence whatsoever and because a woman just said this, he needs to be off work? What kind of madness is this? Get Michael Irvin back to work. Come on. ESPN, they need to get common sense, and because they lack this common sense, that's why their business is going down the tube. And I'll say it again, ESPN will be debunked by 2030. It's plain and simple. If they continue pulling off these kind of acts, it is leading to their demise, and Stephen A. Smith is absolutely right. I'm glad he blasted ESPN, and ESPN better listen to Stephen A. Smith, because if they don't listen to Stephen A. Smith might very well bolt on ESPN. He's been leaving hints about potentially leaving ESPN in recent memory, and if they don't listen to his commands, he's going to go ahead and say, "You know what, I'm leaving ESPN when my contract is up. Don't go ahead and renew it unless you're willing to pay me $20 million a year." It's that simple. So that is why Stephen A. Smith is absolutely right about his take on Michael Irvin. Remember, go ahead and subscribe to Sports Guy Talking, like the video, and please comment down below. If you guys do that, I may shout you guys out in my Instagram story every Monday. That will be for the @DustinTran Instagram account. Make sure to follow me on Instagram @DustinTran and that Sports Guy Talking. Also, go follow me on Twitter @DustinTran. Again, go ahead and do those things that I just told you guys to go do. Hopefully, you guys enjoyed the content that was just produced. Peace out. I hope you enjoyed that video. Want more Sports Guy Talking, the home of great sports content? Make sure you click that subscribe button to get the latest from Sports Guy Talking. Go ahead and like the video, comment down below, check the description box on the video in order to follow my Instagram and Twitter. Also, be sure to check out more of the best clips from the YouTube channel Sports Guy Talking.